seats. Clerk will proceed.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives. Sir, attached is the letter I have sent to the Honorable David L. Walters, Governor of the State of Oklahoma, notifying him of my resignation from the House of Representatives effective November 15th, 1994 at 12 midnight. Signed sincerely, James M. Inhofe, Member of Congress.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable the Speaker, House of Representatives. Sir, I have the honor to transmit herewith a certification from the Governor of Oklahoma, the Honorable David Walters, indicating that Steve Largent of the 1st Congressional District is elected to fill the vacancy in the 103rd Congress created by the resignation of the Honorable James M. Inhofe at midnight on November 15th, 1994. This certification has been submitted under the laws of Oklahoma as stated in the accompanying documents. An election certification of Steve Largent to the 104th Congress has also been received in my office. Signed sincerely, Donald K. Anderson, Clerk, U.S. House of Representatives.
Clerk will read the letter from the Governor of Oklahoma.
The Honorable Donald K. Anderson, Clerk of the U.S. House of Representatives. Dear Mr. Anderson, the provisions of 26 Oklahoma Statute Section 12101B require the election held November 8, 1994, for the seat to which Steve Largent was elected, be treated as election within the meaning of Oklahoma law to fill the vacancy of the unexpired term of James M. Inhofe, Member of Congress, who resigned effective November 15, 1994 at 12 midnight. Accordingly, pursuant to that statute, my appointment as Governor of the State of Oklahoma is the ministerial act incident to that election. Signed sincerely, David Walters, Governor, State of Oklahoma.
Members, please cease conversation. Take their seats. The chair recognizes the Republican leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have a privileged resolution at the desk and ask for its immediate consideration.
Clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 585, resolved that the Speaker is hereby authorized and directed to administer the oath of office to the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Steve Largent. Resolved that the question of the final right of Mr. Steve Largent to a seat in the 103rd Congress be referred to the Committee on House Administration.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute. 1 hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I shall not take the hour, but the resolution really requires some explanation to the House.
Suspended until may the chair ask the members on my right to take their seats and cease conversation, and also the members on the left. The Republican leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I offer this resolution to clarify the situation surrounding the seating of Congressman-elect Steve Largent to the 103rd Congress. As my colleagues know, Congressman Inhofe of Oklahoma won the special election to fill the vacant Senate seat from Oklahoma and has resigned from the House, thereby creating a vacancy. Mr. Largent was elected on November 8th to represent the 1st District of Oklahoma. The credentials forwarded from the state include a letter from Governor Walters indicating that the provisions of Oklahoma law require that the November 8th election, quote, be treated as election within the meaning of Oklahoma law to fill the vacancy of the unexpired term of James M. Inhofe, close quote. The governor also forwarded an order of appointment for Mr. Largent to the 103rd Congress as, quote, the ministerial act incident to that election, close quote, because the governor under Oklahoma law has no discretion to act otherwise. Let me cite from the relevant Oklahoma statute, 26 Oklahoma statute, section 12-101, paragraph B. No special election shall be called if the vacancy occurs after March 1st of any even-numbered year if the term of said office expires the following year. In such case, the candidate elected to said office at the regular general election shall be appointed by the governor to fill the unexpired term. Now, under Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, when vacancies occur in the House, the executive authority of the state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. Members of the House must be elected and not appointed. And if the Oklahoma law is construed as an appointment, it likely is unconstitutional. The House has, however, historically given great weight to a state's construction of its laws. This is the first time, as far as I am aware, that the statute has been applicable and therefore never come to our attention before. I know of no objection to the seating of Mr. Largent. The Speaker and I have discussed this matter and believe that the issue raises enough of a constitutional issue that it ought to be brought to the House's attention, but that we also should seat Mr. Largent. My resolution allows for the seating of Mr. Largent, but also directs the Committee on House Administration to review the issue for final determination. And I would urge the adoption of the resolution, Mr. Speaker, and
Just briefly,
I'd be happy to yield to the distinguished gentleman.
Thank you, gentlemen, for yielding. I think the point needs to be understood that Mr. Largent is being asked to be sworn in as a member of the House of Representatives because the people in his district elected him, notwithstanding an Oklahoma law that says the governor can appoint. The reason it's being referred to the House Administration Committee is because, in fact, the governor has forwarded a document which said that it was a ministerial duty to appoint. Nevertheless, the Oklahoma statute says the governor can appoint. And I am very pleased and proud to say the people of Oklahoma have sent us a new congressman.
Well, I thank the distinguished gentleman for his contribution. And again, Mr. Speaker, I'd urge adoption of the resolution and move the previous question on adoption of the resolution.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on adopting the resolution. So many as in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Will the gentleman from Oklahoma, the member-elect of the 1st Congressional District of Oklahoma, Mr. Steve Largent, come forward? The members, please rise. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? That you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you are about to enter, so help you God. You are a member of the 103rd Congress. Oklahoma, Mr. Ishtuk is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House.
The gentleman will suspend until the Will the members please cease conversation? Gentleman from Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. It's my privilege to introduce the newest member of the 103rd Congress, also to be a member of the 104th Congress, which actually brings to an end a series of fascinating events in our great home state of Oklahoma this year. We had the resignation of Congressman Glenn English and the election of Congressman Frank Lucas, the resignation
of U.S. Senator David Boren to assume the presidency of the University of Oklahoma, the special election of Congressman Jim Inhofe for the U.S. Senate, and now the swearing in of the new member from Tulsa, Oklahoma of the 1st District. This is a gentleman who has already shown great ability and accomplishment in the previous field, and who will also show that same great ability and will excel in the United States Congress. In the National Football League, he was named the NFL Man of the Year, not for his accomplishments on the field, which were tremendous, but for his accomplishments off the field, working with the community, with the family, and the adherence and allegiance to the values that he professes. A great honor. I'm very pleased that he's a graduate of a high school in my congressional district, Putnam City High School, which is in the Oklahoma City suburb of War Acres, and where my children attend school. And if you were still playing football there today, Steve, you'd find that 2 of the cheerleaders are my daughters, and they would be cheering you on as ardently as everyone else has. But it's my honor to introduce a great gentleman as the newest member of Congress from Oklahoma, the Honorable Steve Largent.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
It's truly an honor to stand before you today as the newest member of the 103rd Congress. I want first of all to thank those people most responsible for me being here: my wife Terry, my son Kyle, my daughter Casey, and my 2 boys Kelly and Kramer. They're the ones that endured a political campaign, and believe me, I thought a 4-12 season was a difficult process to endure, but nothing compares to your first political campaign. There truly are the joy and inspiration of my life, and I must thank the hundreds of campaign workers in Tulsa, Oklahoma who worked in our campaign. The emotions I feel this morning are overwhelming, similar to those that I felt when my 4 children were born. I feel a tremendous sense of joy and optimism. At the same time, I'm aware of the tremendous responsibility given me by the voters of Oklahoma's 1st District. Mr. Speaker, voters on November 8th made a clear, unmistakable call for bold leadership. A leadership that doesn't accept the way things are as the way things have to be. A leadership that reflects integrity and instills faith in our government and in our elected officials. I pledge today to be such a leader. It's truly an honor to serve in this body with my distinguished colleagues and with you, Mr. Speaker. I look forward to the challenges that lay ahead and to working together with both Republicans and Democrats to change the direction of this nation, to reduce the size and scope of government, to reduce taxes and regulations on businesses, and to move this great country forward on a path towards greater opportunity for all Americans. Thank you.
Keating, the wife of Oklahoma's Republican Governor Frank Keating, made news this past weekend with a political announcement of her own. On Saturday, she discussed her intention to run for the congressional seat now held by Republican Steve Largent. The 20-minute event took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Just a little bit.
Does that foul everybody up?
Push that up.
That's it. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here on this early Saturday morning. I guess it's not real early, but it's early for a Saturday morning. This is a special day, and before I open this up to questions and answers, I'd like to make a few remarks, if I may. When friends first approached me about the possibility of running for Congress, I was flattered and intrigued. Now that I have spent a month discussing the possibility with my family, community leaders, and potential supporters, I am enthusiastic and engaged. Today I'm here at the Tulsa Press Club to announce that I will seek the Republican nomination for the 1st Congressional District in Oklahoma. Naturally, I ask for the support of every voter in the district. However, I know that support must be earned by waging a vigorous and positive campaign that addresses the concerns and aspirations of the people of the 1st District. I am determined to run a campaign that is inclusive, substantive, and energetic, one that unites rather than divides the electorate. As a fourth-generation Oklahoman and a third-generation Tulsan, I am proud of the people of the 1st District. I intend to make them equally proud of the type of campaign that my supporters and I wage in our effort to earn their trust and win their votes. Being upbeat and optimistic does not relieve a candidate of the obligation of taking clear positions on tough issues in the public arena. Make no mistake, I am a proud Republican and a compassionate but committed conservative. Like the President and most members of my party, I favor a substantial tax cut, a strong defense, a lean federal bureaucracy, and traditional family values. I will fight for these values in my campaign, and if elected, I will do so in the halls of Congress. As a hunter and a fisherwoman, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and having been trained as an educator, I favor high standards, frequent testing, and a focus on the basics in the classroom. The federal government can and should do more to assist our schools, but control must always remain in the hands of teachers and parents. As a former business owner and employee, I will work to lessen the regulatory burdens on small business. I will vote to preserve and reform Social Security, always mindful that the benefits of those in or near retirement must be assured. And on the sensitive and emotional issue of abortion, I am pro-life. Many people may wonder if being the Oklahoma's First Lady prepares a person to seek and hold public office. Let me assure you that it does. Being an elected official is first and foremost about service. The same is true of being First Lady. As a full-time volunteer for the state of Oklahoma, I have seen and participated in the political and governmental process in a way that few people ever have the opportunity to experience. During my tenure, I've worked to find private solutions to public problems and bring people together to pursue worthy goals. I have tried to comfort those facing tragedy and loss. I have sought to inspire children to pursue their dreams. And I have visited our troops on foreign soil. I have even encouraged and assisted good men and women in their quest for public office. Of course, I've not always been a public figure. Long before I was First Lady, I was a trained educator, a businesswoman, a dedicated community volunteer, a wife, and a mother. Those pursuits provide a set of experience and values that would make any person a wiser and better public official. In fact, I would contend that far too few elected officials have those experiences. For Congress to be more responsive, the experiences of its members must be more diverse and representative. I believe I could add a unique perspective to Congress that would enrich its deliberations and make me an effective advocate for the people of this district and for our state. Serving in public office is an enormous responsibility and a tremendous honor. The hours are long, the work is hard, and the decisions are difficult. One must be willing to put others above oneself, to fight for their needs, to uphold their values, and to represent them with honor, dignity, and decency. I have endeavored to discharge my public responsibilities and live my personal life in a way that would make me a worthy representative of the wonderful people of the 1st District. I ask for their prayers, their confidence, and their support in the coming campaign. Thank you.
All right. So bad. So bad.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry, Rob.
Is this race going to be ran from the governor's office?
No, actually, the race will not be run from the governor's office. Since I became seriously interested in looking at becoming a potential candidate for Congress, I have made clear definitions of my responsibilities as a First Lady and those as a candidate. And that line has been drawn, and I've done everything in separate manners.
The governor's aides are here today, and that this conference was scheduled by the governor's office.
Well, actually, the conference wasn't scheduled by the governor's office. The representative from the Tulsa office has actually resigned to run my campaign, and every person who's here, who's with the governor's office, is here on their own free will. Everything that they've done to help me in making this decision before I even decided to run was done on vacation time and on personal leave.
I know you may shudder at the comparison, but I want to ask this question. First Lady of the country, First Lady of the state, both running for a job in Congress as their high-profile husbands get ready to leave office. Does anybody talk to you about that comparison with Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think a few people have made the comparison. It's probably a legitimate comparison, but I think the comparison probably can stop with the fact that both Hillary Clinton and I are both women. I'm a conservative. She's a liberal. I'm running for Congress from my hometown, from my home state, where I've lived and I've worked and I've grown up with the people who are in my community and have served them in a number of different capacities as a volunteer, building this community and building this state to where it is today.
You say you call Tulsa your hometown, but
Yes, sir.
some people say it's not your hometown. You haven't lived there at least 16 years permanently.
Well, let me just reflect. My grandparents came to Tulsa. My grandfather came to Tulsa in 1914 and helped build this community to where it is today. On both sides of my parents' equation. My parents were born here. I was born here. I went to public schools here. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma. Our children were born here. I've been a registered voter in Tulsa since I was old enough to vote. We've owned, Frank and I as adults have owned property in Tulsa since we were married. This is our home. Our hearts have never left Tulsa. We left for 7 years in the arena of public service when Frank was hired to work in Washington, but our hearts never left Tulsa. Our families here remained here, all our family, and even in the capacity as First Lady, I have been in Tulsa many times working on community efforts, community endeavors to help build our community and lift up people in the community. So I'm very proud to be a Tulsan, and I'm proud to run for office from the 1st District.
Along the same lines, there are people who say the Keatings don't want to live in Oklahoma. They want to live in Washington, and that's what this is all about.
Well, that's not true. Actually, if you're elected as a congressman or woman from your hometown, you're living in your home district and you're commuting to Washington. I'd be in Tulsa 4 days of the week and in Washington 3 days of the week. And that's the nature of the job. If you're going to represent the people of the district, you have to live in the district.
So you're saying you'll live in the district and not
Sure.
in Washington?
Well, sure. Absolutely. If you're going to be a congressman for your district, you have to live here, you have to work here, you have to have your energy here, you'd want to represent the hopes and the values of the people, and you'd want to be in touch with your constituency so that you did represent those hopes and values.
Have you opened an office here?
No, I'll do that next week.
Pardon me?
I will do that next week, on Monday.
This won't be an easy race. At least two high-profile name candidates on the Republican side have announced. So even the Republican primary race is not going to be easy.
Well, I've never taken the easy road. I've always taken the road that I felt was the right road, what was the best decision in my heart for myself, for my family, and for my community. And I know that it will be a difficult race. I hope to earn, by working harder than any other candidate, the respect of the voters as a congressional candidate, and hopefully earn their trust to serve them in Congress.
Would you be the first woman congressman from this district if elected?
Well, the district lines have changed over the years. Alice Robertson actually was elected from Oklahoma in 1920, served from 21 and 22 from Muskogee, and actually was the second woman congressman ever elected to Congress. But it's been 80 years since a woman has represented Oklahoma in Congress.
I guess this is more for the governor. If the incumbent resigns, will there be a special election called?
Well, obviously, Steve Largent has made it clear that he is not running for re-election. If he elects to resign early, then a special election would be called, but I will not make that decision. That will be deferred to the lieutenant governor. I think it's only appropriate that I not make the decision of when and where to call a special election. Although I certainly intend to vote for Kathy. There's no question about that. But I think it's appropriate for the lieutenant governor to make the decision as to a special election if that eventuality occurs.
Frank, what's it like being the second fiddle?
Listen, I love Kathy. She's my best friend. We've been married almost 29 years. She's a wonderful human being, and I am so proud of her. I'm popping all of my buttons, and I can be second fiddle, third fiddle, fourth fiddle, doesn't matter to me at all, as long as my wife is happy and continues to do the wonderful things she's done in my life.
What did you decide to run for Congress? Well, I think that's actually a great question. I had never considered entering the public arena, but like most people, when they're faced with making a decision, and I actually was approached by a very dear friend who asked me to consider running for Congress, I started looking at what my passions were in life, what makes me tick. And I'm at crossroads because Frank's winding down his term as governor. Our children are all out of the nest. Carrie graduates from law school in May. Chip graduates from college in May. Kelly is out in the working world. And so, like many women at my station in life, I've devoted my life to my family and my husband. And when that question was asked me, I started thinking about my passions. My passions are I love people. Getting up every single day, knowing that I might be able to help somebody is what makes me tick. And hopefully I can make a difference. That's also what makes me tick. And I've had a lifetime of trying to find private solutions to public problems, and now would like to be able to go to the other side of the equation to find public solutions to public problems and make a difference.
Any particular issues that you're really passionate about going into this race?
Sure, I'm passionate about children. I think children are the future of tomorrow, and I think that it's very important that we focus our attention on our children of America. Education, I think family values, health care, putting money back into people's pockets to empower them to spend it and invest it the way they choose to, because they're the genius of America. I think probably the issues that are the same to most people are the same to me. And again, I've grown up with the people of Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I've gotten my core values and my beliefs from all the people I've grown up with.
Will this race be made somewhat more difficult because district lines are likely to be redrawn and nobody quite knows how they're going to be?
Well, I think that if there is a special election, the special election will be held in the current district, and on the heels of the special election will be a general election, and those lines will be drawn for the new district as required by law. And I think that you just shift gears to make sure that you represent the people and the values of the entire district in both scores.
Ever thought about running for public office before?
Never. I really have loved public service as a volunteer, and I think service is very, very important. And I've always been my husband's greatest supporter and his greatest champion. But like most people, I've supported Frank in his endeavors, and I've supported my children, and that's where my heart's been, and that's what I've wanted to do, and will continue to do so. And I'm just at a different time in my life where I want to make a difference in the lives of others in a different way.
What have you learned about politics in your role? Not just issues that you support, but what have you learned about politics that could help you in this job?
Well, I think that one of the most important things that any of us can do if we're going into any arena of community service, whether it's on the private side or the public side, is to listen, and to listen what the needs are, what the hopes are, what the challenges are, and to enable people to feel like their dreams can be kept alive. And I think both on the public side and on the private side, we as citizens work towards those means. And that would be my goal as a congresswoman, should I be lucky enough to be elected and have the ability to serve, is to have a reach out effort, endeavor, so people feel like you want to have a helping hand to help them solve their problems, to keep their hopes and dreams alive.
The first district, because it's pretty much contiguous with Tulsa, has the highest concentration of probably minority voters, in particular gay and lesbian constituents, most of whom have been underserved. If elected, would you be willing to support a fair employment bill, such as had been before Congress, and anti-hate crime bills?
Well, first let me say that I will wage an inclusive campaign and be, if elected, a congresswoman who is inclusive. And I think I have a long history of reaching out to bring people together to work towards solutions, even though we may have differences of opinions and different ways of getting there, but to bring people together to try and go towards a common goal. At this stage in the game, I think that it is probably something that I'm not really schooled in on the different kinds of legislation that you're talking about. I don't know. It would depend on how it was written, and I would put everything under fair consideration, but understanding that I don't think that we need to legislate the way people believe. I think we need to change our hearts so that we're accepting and tolerant of other people's differences.
Would you be willing to meet with gay and lesbian community leaders as part of your campaign outreach?
As a congresswoman and as a candidate, I will reach out and listen to every single voter of the 1st District, every single citizen of the 1st District.
Thank you.
So are your beliefs very close to your husband's?
Absolutely.
You guys have never squabbled over some of the things he did as a politician?
Well, I don't know that we've ever squabbled over that. I think we've had great discussions. We've spent, Frank and I, as
I compromise and do as I'm told.
That's why he's always been a great husband. I think that Frank and I have a history of sitting down at the dinner table on a regular basis, and if we don't have the ability to have dinner, to sit down at nighttime and to talk about the things that are going on in our communities and in our state and in our country and in the world. And I think that when you sit down and spend that much time together and you debate the issues and you talk about the concerns of different people, oftentimes the conclusions that you draw together. And so I think that what you see with Frank is probably almost a mirror image of what you would see with me. We do have some differences and a different way of approaching some issues, but by and large, there isn't anything that I really disagreed with Frank that I can think of. Can you?
Not right now. Don't think so.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming.